Ms. Sjoberg, this is your first time running for Texas Representative of District 9. Tell us about yourself and why you decided to run for this office.
This is an area I live in between Groveton and Trinity, and we had started building a homestead here again probably about 5 or 6 years ago, and we moved here permanently years ago just to get away, be in more closer to nature, and enjoy life a lot more. And I just always remember this place. I had lived here before in my 20s, and it was amazing, and not much has changed. So that's just
And you're one of 3 Republicans in this primary race. Why should voters choose you and not one of your opponents, Paulette Carson or Rocky Thigpen?
okay. So I'm in, and I am endorsed by nobody. I'm for the people. I don't have one yard sign. I've taken money from no one. After the primaries, that might be a different, I might take a different avenue with that. But I feel like if we are looking at a yard sign and choosing our candidates, we need to start looking a little bit deeper. It shouldn't be the person with the most yard signs. This is 2026. So, what I decided to do was pursue this position digitally. Um, and I feel like a lot of educated voters are really trying to get their any kind of media they can off of the internet or TV. So I just chose to do it that way and see what happens. I care about nature. I am the very first candidate. You can do a search, candidate or really anybody who had mentioned the Lufkin Data Center issue. And again, I had said this before, if everybody decides in our community in District 9 that they want data centers up and down the street, great. You should not elect someone and then they quietly scurry off to their office and to Austin and just do whatever. And so that's why I was not looking for any endorsements. I feel like we keep doing the same thing. We keep ending up in the same position. I'm very concerned with data centers, water. Water law is very, needs to be revised with what we have going on. Very concerned with water in our area and transparency. So everybody says transparency, it's a huge buzzword. Well, I don't know of anyone, and maybe there is someone in a different state. We need to have, if I were elected, I would have a website. On this website, every week, we're going to have advisors in every county. This is a huge area, and it's a very rich area. When you look at the water, all of the data centers coming in, there's over 600 data centers coming into the US. This one I had found out about just doing my own research because I was concerned. And then now everyone's talking about it. Well, that's great, but the public should have known before. And then the water problem is going on county to county, and whatever is being done 200 miles from us affects us. I guess we need to look at, I know there might be some successful states that have managed the data center thing, and that goes into the initial contract. But if you're giving a tax abatement for 10 years, don't run and tell your constituents that it's going to be a great tax basis. There's going to be about 30 jobs. I just think the details, we're always missing the details. And a prime example of that is that I can't find one voter who realizes that in November of 2025, Texans had voted for us to give our reserve money to the Texas Medical Center to the tune of $300 million a year for dementia research. That's a lot of money. But the best part is nobody even knows that we did that. So it gets set up, an organization gets set up, a board of directors, and we don't. There's so many questions that I have with that. So that's just an example of what I'm trying to say here. If we never know, and believe me, I talked to people very high up, nobody knew about the data center. I'm a researcher. I have researched water wars for 10 years. And everything I learned, I kind of thought this can't be true. It's true and it's here. But by the time the us, the general population realizes what has happened, it will be too late. You won't be able to go back and change laws. Companies will be grandfathered in. So these are my reasons for running. I don't need the headache. I don't need to do this. I'm very happy, satisfied, and but I love nature. I love this land, and when I see how rich it is, I realize that we are at risk of being exploited. So those are my only reasons.
Yes, ma'am. And as you mentioned, water rights for many East Texans are at stake right now with proposed construction plans like those data centers, with one right in Lufkin. How do you plan to secure these water rights for East Texans as discussion of these type of plans and constructions continue?
I think we have to get in there and look under the hood and see what's already been done. I think we need to understand water. I was researching Texas water rights. It's very interesting. So if I go out and dig a pond, which I did, and it has koi in it, I now don't own the water in the pond. The state owns that. So I just think we really need to get in and educate ourselves. So that's why I'm saying transparency, not here's a law that I want to implement. Hey everyone, this is what's going on. What do you think? And I would need everyone's help, everyone to contribute and share their thoughts. And we decide what we want to do. I don't think that people move from Houston or Dallas to the rural communities and then want it to turn into Houston or Dallas. I'm all for growth. I'm a tech person, but I think most of us move here to embrace what God has given us and hang on to what is left and of just clean living and nature and and just the community mindset is just completely different. So I think if everyone wants to move forward, I'm all for moving forward, but not to the point that it damages the future. I think that people who have kids, we don't have kids. People who have kids should be more upset by everything than I am. You need to be able to leave them a fair shake. And I don't. I can imagine 40 years from now, people's kids are looking at them like, "What were you thinking?" And we were busy. We didn't realize what was happening. We're busy living our lives and going to work. And there's a lot going on in the background. And I just believe that we need to find out where we are because I don't know at this point what we can change. But I notice there's tons of change all across America as people in different communities are educating themselves. But again, a lot of people, business owners and whatnot in Lufkin, before I told them, they did not know. So I'm really looking to share not my opinion as I learn it, but the real information, the real bills that are being passed. I'm all of us, I guess everybody, that voted in November voted to give to dementia research, but it wasn't clear. It was, Proposition XYZ. I don't remember the proposition. Dementia research, should Texas invest? That's all you saw. But what we didn't see the 372 pages that told us we were giving 300 million a year for 10 years. And then and to make matters worse, just an example in the contracting of that, we can still do things like that. But what benefit does Texas see? What benefit does the individual see whose tax dollars went towards that? We don't own any medical technology that is created with that, it's just a give. And I think that when I'm looking at dirt roads right now that have fiber optics going down them, that's not for you. You already have cable. Most people do. And so people think they're going to get faster internet. That's going to take a lot of research to really explain to people what that actually will end up being used for. Again, millions and millions being spent on that of federal money, like it's a favor for you. And so again, the money being spent is not trickling down. Fiber optics is being put on dirt roads that you can't even drive down if it rains 6 inches. And I just think it's comical to think this is for the people, because what everybody I've talked to would like after 40 years of driving down dirt roads is better and safer roads. If the speed limit's 70, there should be a full-size median on the road. If we have extra money, it should be for things like that. It also helps property owners maintain their property value if they're actually on a road. You know, it long term it helps people. So I we're not getting to make any decisions. We're being told what's going to be done for us. So,
And you've put an emphasis on nature and as an issue. But let's say you are elected as the primary candidate and then go on to win in November. What issue besides water rights do you plan to first tackle as a representative?
property taxes, again, as we were talking about before, where the money is going, um, a surplus of money in Texas is from in the last 5 or 6 years, all of our property values went up and there's a surplus. And I think it's funny because if you think about the math, what about when the property you haven't sold in that 5 years? Now your property is doubled. When it goes back down, now you can't sell it for that. Are you getting a credit for the overage that you paid when you end up having, let's say the house was 250, it went up to 500,000, your taxes doubled and probably more if the percentage went up. Are you getting a credit on that? And I know people just want property taxes gone, period. I think on that, we're going to have to look at it case by case, county by county. Some counties are closer to bankruptcy than others. But I would say at the very least, can we begin somewhere? I think that people that are over 65 and their home is paid for, we need to look at that. Not look at it, we need to do something. And so when you really untangle how things are and how complicated things are when it comes to our finances. But obviously, property taxes, number one. I believe that once we look at where the property taxes are going, what they're funding, the school tax, that's a big one that needs to be thrown out the window, and the state needs to compensate for that. Reason being, we were told years ago that the lottery was going to help account for school taxes. We have toll roads that were supposed to account for toll roads. So there's a lot, again, that we don't know. And then the money, huge chunks of money just get spent. So I'm going to say land rights. I don't think a company should be able to come right in next to you where you're trying to water your cows and do industrial drilling. Water doesn't last like that. It doesn't work like that. If you over drill to an industrial level, you can dry out the ground. And it's going on in different places where companies have come in different countries and done this. So I think land rights, water rights, and air. I have a big problem with air. Um, the cleanliness of the air, what we're actually breathing. I had a water test done, and I was shocked to learn at the university lab that not one person has ever come in and asked for a metals test. I was not thrilled at all with what I found. It was horrible. And it goes in line with what entities such as Geoengineering Watch say that you will find if you look at your soil testing and your water testing. So that was quite upsetting. And another reason why I ran, because I realized, okay, I'm out in the country, I'm away from people, I have some great neighbors and family that live down the street, but we still can't control. We're completely out of control with our air quality, our land rights, our water rights, and what's coming. So and property taxes fall in line with the land, but those are my priorities. Period. It makes no sense to me. Schools need to be funded. It doesn't appear to me the teachers are being treated fairly. The students are falling through the cracks. So I'm not saying throw out school rights, school taxes. I'm saying it needs to be compensated for. If we have hundreds of millions of dollars of overage a year, shouldn't we invest in today's kids? Because today's kids, today's education is going to be obsolete 10 years from now. We already see that young people out of college are having difficulty finding jobs. Well, if we're not changing the education system and revamping it with what the future jobs will be, And we know what they are. They're studies, we know what they are. So we need to do that now, or the unemployment rate and poverty, um, everything is going to be worse 10 years from now for a kid that's 8 years old. Imagine what the job market will be if we don't retrain, turn the corner, and change our thinking on jobs now. So I'm not for defunding the schools. I'm for fixing the schools and getting the money at state level.
Yes, ma'am. And you've talked about what you would do differently. Trent Ashby is the current District 9 representative, but he is not up for reelection as he's running for Texas Senate. So, are there any policies that you would plan to continue of his?
I can tell you this, Lufkin, 25 years ago versus now, there's been some growth. There's been some saving the downtown area, trying to bring commerce back to Lufkin. The freeways coming through. It's amazing. I do think we need more jobs, but I think that with what he's had to deal with, again, because a lot of the money is not trickling down, I think that he's done well, and Lufkin is a place that people can be proud of. And I remember years ago, I really wanted to live in Lufkin, not Trinity, and there was no opportunity there. And now it's a really, really nice place. Um, and I think that a lot of growth can continue. And we can do that without infringing on, you know, harming nature, harming the land. Um, there needs to be a balance there. So I don't believe now, if a data center brought 1,000 jobs, and what that would be different, but that's not what this is. And what data will there be, and what company will really be running? There's just a lot of questions. And I feel like we need to know more going in so that we can negotiate better as far as what the town's rights will be, or the county rights. So I do think I'm not looking to go change everything that he's done. But I do know that right now we're looking at turning a very important corner. And like I said, with over 600 data sites are planned. The water use is going to be detrimental. A lot of politicians will tell you, because they haven't done the research, oh, it's going to be on a looped system. A looped system. Well, you can't just spit out hot water, put it back into the river. If it's even 1.5 degrees off, do you know what happens? There's fish kill. Marine life is a huge problem, but also you're going to have algae growth. So we need to know exactly. We need to not just be told it's on a loop system. We promise it's all going to be okay. We need to know exactly, because also, can things change? Let's say we open a data center, it has jobs, I'm completely wrong. Okay, great. But can they change 5 years down the road? Oh, now we're going to add on more. We're going to use more diesel, which nobody even realizes diesel's used a lot of times, um, for power. Uh, like, what can be changed once it's in? Probably a lot of things. So I just think we need to be very careful. And that's what I want to do. Just be transparent, have people on teams that are part of the communities, the teachers, um, parents, landowners, cattlemen, anybody that has a valid opinion that we can use, to cultivate and save ourselves. That's really all I'm interested in.
Yeah, and how do you balance your party's priorities with what your local district will want if you are elected?
Again, I think what I found out is it's a lot of it is misinformation, miscommunication, not understanding. We have so much that's being thrown at us from so many different angles. It's shocking to me what people do not know. Um, Even, politically active people that I know are not aware. So I think that, how can we lead ourselves if we don't even know the reality of what's happening? And just, sometimes I'll find out an answer. I do a lot of research, and I'll go around asking everyone the question, just because I want to see, does anybody see this? Has anybody no? And the answer is no. And so I think that it just really goes in line with learning, um, looking at documents, taking a lot of time, and looking at what the reality is and not thinking about today and this year, but more 5 years from now and 10 years from now, because that'll be here before you know it. And we don't want to regret and wish that we had maybe gone in one direction or not in another. So I feel that I am middle of the road. Um, I'm I'm not I love nature, but a part of me loves the city. But when I see um I did a chemical test, and I've talked to a lot of different people about it, but I did a chemical test on my pond because I noticed a lot of what we will call pollution outside early in the morning. And then I let it rain because it has to have time to fall if there is anything in the air. My pond and my poor little koi fish look so peaked and horrible now, but there is 28 times the toxic level of aluminum in the pond. So this is why I say I'm concerned. And the funny thing is, a lot of cattlemen and stuff, I'll ask them if they've tested their lakes and ponds, and everybody wants to get together and do it together. I'm not writing a research paper. I just did that for my own knowledge. I already knew what I saw. And so it was kind of alarming to me. And when you ask people, what their feelings are on geoengineering, again, that's another issue nobody wants to look into. Nobody wants to deal with it. We've all been taught something completely different. And I think even when I talked to the girls at the lab, when I dropped my sample off, shocked to find out not one cattle rancher, not one farmer, not one person with a catfish lake had gone in at least 5 years and tested for metals. They test for other things, algae or whatever, not metals. They had to look up the codes and try to figure out how to do what I wanted. And I tested for aluminum, barium, and strontium just to confirm, my suspicions. So when I say there's a lot of us that just hope for the best and, we hope everything's going to work out. There's other people taking care of these things. They wouldn't do that. That's another one you always hear. I've done the research and I'm telling you that we really need to pay attention so that we can salvage, the peace and the beauty that we have while trying to have safer roads, better schools, educate today's youth, because that's who's going to be running things. When I'm in a wheelchair, that's going to be who's, running for office. And so we really need to invest in children. I would say water, land, air, and children, because children are very important to tomorrow. So,
Yes, ma'am. And you mentioned this lack of, well, I wouldn't say lack, but this misinformation going around about what representatives are doing or what laws are being passed. Would you plan? How would you plan to fix that in office?
well, what I decided was, if you follow world politics at all, I can't do anything about that as a human being. Can't do anything about the country. I can't really do much about the state, just as a person living my life. But if we all start, every one of us, start at county level or your neighborhood, and we start learning, educating ourselves, um, you know, I feel that way it can branch out and we can grow more from a county level. So that's what I'm worried about. Our counties, let's start with that first. It does This is what matters. This is where everyone lives and is trying to make a living, and run companies. So I feel that we need to, that's why I say a website is very important that doesn't have propaganda. These are the facts. This is what I learned in Austin today. This is what came across my desk. This is what the state is working on. This is what I think it means. What do you think it means? And having an open dialogue instead of, oh my goodness, on Facebook, people argue. And sometimes I'm just there for the comments and I'm watching the arguing. And so many people have bits and pieces of facts. So what I want to do is share the actual facts, not a spin. This is what it actually says, highlight, you know. And I think if we go from there, there'd be a better understanding. I have no dog in the fight. Here's what is about to happen. Is this what we want? You do great. So I think it starts with transparency. And too often we elect people and they go and they just do whatever, and they do what they're the people who endorse them. Now you kind of are in. I will do no matter what is best for and what the people of the counties want, period.
And is there anything you'd like to add about your campaign for District 9 rep that I haven't asked about?
No, that pretty well covers it. I'm just the word transparency is meaningless if you don't follow through. So you're also not electing a queen that just goes off, and votes however they feel and how their friends tell them, to vote, and their endorsements, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to at least share the information. What do y'all think? And have a little committee with each county and seek the advice of the people who live here. This is a huge area. It's very rich in land value, water rights, and whatnot. So we have to be careful. But I believe if everybody helps everyone to understand this is what this actually means. Do you want this? I don't want this. And we just work as a team, not you're electing someone to go solve all of our problems. It's too big of an area. I don't feel one person can do that. You've got to have a team of people from each county. I'm willing to do that. That's what I want to do. I can't pretend I know what everyone in Polk County wants. But if we have a team, from Polk that will help, then I don't feel that anyone will be overlooked. So that's the plan.
Well, thank you so much, Stephanie Sjoberg, for meeting with us and talking about your campaign.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course.